I'm Juniper Nay.
And I'm Sarah Mask.
And we're education interns at the Greensboro History Museum, and this is the History Notes podcast. And so this is news as an educational tool for the community of Greensboro.
Today we are at Vintage to Vogue Boutique on South Elm Street, and we're excited to be talking to some of the artists and organizers who created the beautiful murals in downtown Greensboro that have gotten state recognition and also national, from what I'm learning, recognition here in Greensboro. And we're excited to just be here talking to each and every one of you. Before we get started, we want to mention that COVID-19 pandemic is still going on, and for filming purposes, we've taken off our mask, but please keep wearing your mask and please stay safe.
All right, and thank you again for allowing us to have this conversation with you guys. And then just briefly, if you could state your name and how you got involved in art. And we'll start over here with
Jennifer Graff. I guess the way that it started was I am a business owner and had plywood in the front of my business. I guess Gina Franco contacted me wanting to do something and came by, and then that's just kind of how it evolved. She painted all my building, and then it was a situation of why not carry this on, and just so happened that news reporters were downtown covering what took place over the weekend and trying to film kind of the devastation, so to speak, that happened to the businesses. However, this was actually a positive thing. So they were walking by and were like, hey, can we talk to you guys? And it kind of just started by there, turning something negative into a positive. So.
Yeah, Ashley Griffin. Actually, we were coming downtown, me and my boyfriend, so we were appreciating the artwork that the artists were doing. And as we were walking past fellow artist Becca Butt's work, I just had to stop her and compliment her on her work because I enjoyed what she was doing. And as we started talking, I revealed to her that I was an artist. I graduated from A&T with a visual arts degree. And she told me, you should come down and you should do a piece. And we exchanged information. The following day, she texted me and told me that she had a spot for me, or they had found a spot for me. And I came down with my idea already drawn out, and I went for it.
Gina Franco. So I was actually watching the live feed from the night before, or from 2 nights before. I was watching the live feed of like the riots and all that, and she's a business owner down here. We're friends, so kind of watching all that. The next day there was a big cleanup. People were coming downtown volunteering to clean up and help board up stores. I never, didn't come and help with any of that, and just kind of had that feeling of wanting to help but not really knowing what to do. And so it was that following day, it was a Monday, and I was just, visually just picturing all these blank canvases all of a sudden. So I reached out to Jen, and I was like, do you mind if I come paint on your store? And she was like, yeah, absolutely, no questions. And so I came, I don't even remember what time it was. It was kind of late in the afternoon for me. It was probably 2-3 o'clock.
Might have been even earlier than that.
Yeah. And then we just kind of sat outside and just kind of, talked about, there wasn't really a plan of what I was going to do. I just had whatever colors I had in my car, and, I knew I wanted to do all 3 of hers. And so I just started, and, used everything from my studio, kind of just pulled a bunch of stuff, threw it in my car, came down here, and we were able to knock those out before curfew, because we had curfew then. So it was they were the news people. We kind of talked about. I think I simply just said, hey, if you're an artist and you want to come volunteer your time, or and kind of continue this visual protest, is kind of how I explained it. Because the protesters were down here also. We were felt like we were side by side, but ours was just visually. Theirs is marching and using their voice. So yeah, and so we mentioned that on the news, and then it freaking crazy after that. There's no words for how it just you know.
I closed my store for the week, you
Yeah.
know, like literally, I mean, it was so many people coming down that week to see the beautiful messages and art that the community came out to speak through painting. And it was just, I was like, you know what, I'm closing the store. We're going to focus only on getting as many artists on business buildings, on the plywood, and giving them a chance to speak. The thing about art, you know, that's how you teach a lot. Like with children's books, you have basic wording, but then you have the art. Art invokes motion. So just like, you know, having a voice and the protesters going out there and speaking their voice, this was another way of letting the community know that we stand beside, we support this movement. A lot of times businesses don't want to get involved in things. There's always the fear of you know, isolating, or you know, you could have an opinion but you don't necessarily want to bring it to the community, so to speak. But that wasn't the case here. Like every single business was like, yes, yes, yes. And you know, I want to make something else really clear. You know, Gina was the first person to throw up a mural, and it was blatant. It was, you know, Black Lives Matter. But I also think it's important to give the protesters some props as well, because they were the first ones to actually put writing on the walls of these boards too. So on the south end, we had a lot of plywood, because you know, the riots and looting started on the south end and then went to the north on Sunday. But South End was already boarded up. So you're getting these messages of like no justice, no peace, Black Lives Matter already on there, spray painted. So, you know, it's also really important that, you know, again, it was a community thing. It started with the protesters. It started with, you know, just someone's concept, and it just took off from there. I'm just going to talk for a little bit, if you don't mind. I just want to, like, there's some things that I just think it's really important to know, that there was no organizations a part of this. It was all community-based. The artwork, the paint that was provided, and the tape, the brushes, the water, snacks, those were people from the community coming down to bring those for the artists. And, you know, we had leftovers, so we were handing them out to protesters as well, bottles of water. So it was a community thing. Some people said, what's the name of the project? We're like, it doesn't have a name, because if you have a name, it takes away from what it truly is. It's individual voices that are all coming together for one cause. So I think that's really important to mention. So.
And then going off of what you were talking about with the movement and visual protest, how does this feel for you guys personally when it comes to the historical backgrounds of Greensboro itself, and then even in today's social climate? How does this movement impact you guys, and how can you educate others through your art pieces with that?
I'll let the artist answer that.
Well, I know for me, graduating from A&T, we had the sit-in with 4. So now that we have something like a second civil rights movement happening, especially in Greensboro, as a Black artist, and being able to display something that says this has continued to happen, but at a moment, all I see is unity happening as well. Like, it wasn't that way back when the sit-ins were happening. You know, now we have more people of different backgrounds, different races. I mean, you go to different countries and they're protesting for this as well. So it's like, as an artist, yes, I'm visual, so I can sit back and I can see the ideas come to me, and fellow artists about how we're coming together and growing as a community. And I think that has been what's most important, especially for myself as a Black artist, because being a Black artist is a little harder. But the fact that in this moment so much backing has happened for the Black community, and coming together for something like a second civil rights movement, if you want to call it that, has been grand. Like, I mean, it's nothing, I've experienced nothing like this my life ever. I've experienced moments of racism and things like that, but while I'm painting, I can hear protests happening, and as I look down the street, they're marching and they're chanting, and as I'm painting, I'm getting energized, and I'm just experiencing something that I'll probably never get to experience again. And I'm sure even Gina and fellow artists felt that as well. It's a powerful, powerful movement. And so for myself, it just gives me more growth, especially in a certain direction, to continue to help, my fellow artists as well as myself, and get a message out there that this isn't a hate thing, this is a unity thing, which is why my piece was named Unity, because as we grow, we're coming together for a greater purpose. It's not just for the Black community, it's for all of us. It's for the children who walked up and saw the artist painting with awe on their faces, like, this is amazing, this is incredible. And I think that has been what's most important for all of us, because that was a big point of doing this. So yeah, just growth as an artist.
Yeah, incredible is a good word. I mean, the experience was incredible. It was, like I said, I don't think it's anything I'm ever going to experience again. I don't think that you can't duplicate it. You can't recreate that moment. I also believe that, like, the most beautiful thing about it was that we were all just kind of side by side. It wasn't, it was just a mix of people and ages and backgrounds, and all wanting to use our voice and support the movement, and do what we can. And yeah, like, for me, it's it was like it really fulfilling. Like, I don't get that from a lot of the projects I do. That was just a different type of feeling. It just felt so important, and definitely kind of made me think about what else I could keep doing, and to not to get that same feeling again, because you can't, but like to like things that matter. Like, I want to do art that matters, because it was such an incredible experience, and the connections we made, and all that is just amazing. Like, yeah. I agree.
Another really interesting thing that happened through this project is, you mentioned the conversations, but also sitting back and just watching people walk by, and I saw people cry over art, which art is emotional. Art evokes these types of things, and I saw people cry. I saw parents educating their children why their names mattered, and these are people that you need to know, and things need to change. So it was one of those situations where, even talking about it gives me goosebumps. It really does. Like, I don't think I cried as much as I did that week of just, I live downtown too, so I'm walking out and just sitting back, and it wasn't just artwork that we were involved in. There were other businesses had people come in. There was other people that were coming out. It was like wildfire, and it was just such a emotional week. Like, tears of joy, and like, and now I have a new friend, and like, I have so many other like business owners that we sat on the steps and just talked, that I've never spoken with before, and sharing stories and of different cultures and of different age groups, of just, it was just a beautiful thing. It really was. And the only reason I think that it was able to carry on the way it was the community's passion, and not having borders on how to move forward. Some business owners would say, "Oh, I want this, I want that." Then we're like, you cannot say to an artist how to use their voice, especially if they're not getting commissioned. This is their way of sharing their voice to the community and sharing their vision to the community. Like, and so it was like so organic, and our favorite word, grassroots, but it was just, and I don't think that another community would be able to do that because of red tape, because of like having to get approvals or what have you. This wasn't that. It was just go, go, you know. And we had over 100 murals downtown, which is crazy. You know, that's 100 stories, 100 people's voices, over 100. You know, and then it was 100 ways of educating children, and not only children, adults. You know, and so. I'm sorry, I could go on forever. It just gives me, like, it was just such a amazing moment for, I think, all of us in different ways, and but also in the same way, and it all came down to unity. So, yeah.
Going off of education, what is the importance of educating ourselves to be more open-minded and acceptable beings, especially when it comes to our future generations? Like, what would you guys like to see in the future, or if you were to create a new future, what would you like to be added to it?
I feel I can go on forever, so I'm just gonna let again.
What I would like to see in the future, which I think is currently happening, I mean, as we deal with issues of racism during this current time, I see children, you know, rejecting that idea. And especially doing something like this in Greensboro, there were so many people walking up and down the street just seeing the work and educating their children. This is what's happening, and this is why it's happening. And, you know, whatever white parents want to say to their children, this is something that is good. This is something that matters as a whole for all of us. Because racism is something that is passed down. We all know that. But there are children and people who reject that idea, and it takes seeing things like this, you know, especially for kids, to be like, you know, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of that unity. I want to be a part of something good and great that makes us good people. And so when there was a kid while I was painting who walked up and his mouth was just dropped, and his parents were with him, and he just looked up and down at my piece, and he was just like, do you see this? This is amazing. And for me, I mean, it was a highlight for me, because in that moment, the excitement in his eyes, I know it's going to go further. Whether he decides to draw something himself and educate his fellow friends and things like that, I think it makes a difference. So the future that I want to see happen is us coming together to educate each other and the youth on how to become better people. Like, that's nonstop. If we leave this world tomorrow, what would we have left behind? You know, ideas, artwork, and as artists, things that we have said to people and the community, and somehow it's going to reach someone, and it may change their perspective. And that's the best part about being an artist, is being able to let someone receive a message their own way. Your message that you were trying to display may be a part of it, but everyone's going to take it and perceive it their own way. And if it's something good or great or better that motivates them, then you have left something great for them to pass down. So I think that that's the most important part of educating the youth and us growing together for something so much more better than what we will be leaving behind. So.
I agree. No. What she said. No, I think just exposing kids to art is very important. I did work for the school system for a lot of years, and there definitely is not a very big importance of art. Like, it's not a big deal. They do some little bit of art, like as an elective, but overall, you know, they don't have a whole lot of exposure to art. So I think that is the one thing that we were able to do is, like, here we just put it all in their face, like, exposing them to artists, art in general. I'm also thinking, like, museums and galleries. There's no question that there's not a very good representation, there's a lack of representation from colored people, women, other minorities. And here I feel like we've kind of did the opposite. We, exposed to, like, there's artists of all colors, so I think that was very important to see. Like, if somebody saw her painting and it's like, oh, I can be a painter when I grow up. I think I didn't start doing art till I was like 28 or something. had I been exposed to it earlier, who knows, I might have, you know, thought, oh, this is actually possible. You can actually do art. So I think just exposure and, yeah, making it accessible. It was free. Everything we did was free for the public. They were able to come and have a full, like, enrichment day. So yeah, I think that's just important.
Well, with the artist speaking clearly about the art, and art is so important, but I'm hoping this is the beginning and not the end.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that through this and through conversations about art, about what's going on right now, there's so much more things that need to change, like legislations, and people need to get out there and fill censuses and voting, and there's so many things that we need to do to be able to change the direction that things are going or have been going, hopefully not going anymore. And I think that this is a part of the change. This is a part of the voices, and just hopefully that it'll keep on going. And I hope that we'll never be able to replicate what happened in downtown Greensboro, but there's other things that we can do that will invoke support for change through art. I think art is an extremely important tool for education, for invoking emotion, like I've said before, but yeah, hopefully this is just the beginning of the art movement being a part of the movement in a whole. I mean, there's so many things that need to be changed, and the youth right now has that opportunity to, where it ends up, that's to continue that. It's so important to keep it going and continue to evolve it, because it's not going to happen overnight. It just isn't.
Yeah.
And so
I think we should talk more about this, like continuing the movement, because it was almost like an active, interactive gallery coming downtown and seeing and interacting with the artists. Now that a lot of the plywood is down and they're going into museums or they're going into schools, how would you start the conversation if you had a child coming through and say a parent wanted to have a conversation about Black Lives Matter and what's happening, but like how would you want them to start with your art or get from it?
Just a little context. I mean, like I think that's gonna get the, why was it painted on plywood? Well, the plywood was up because the stores, were vandalized or, whatever. So then you get, I feel like you got to go back all the way. You got to go all back to the climate of that week and what was going on, and then, you can't leave any of that out because it didn't just magically appear on plywood. There's a reason why the stores were boarded up, but there is also a reason why they were boarded up. So, I mean, I feel like I feel like you can't get around not talking about. If you're looking at the piece, there's no way you can just jump in and say, well, what is this message that you have to go back and talk about the whole thing as well.
If I had to say something about my piece and being able to start a conversation, so I painted a brown person, a black person, and a white person, because not all white people are racist, not all black people are against white people, not all black people are against brown people, and it's a circle of falsehood, if that's a word, that is what's happening. So when parents have to explain people's artwork, you can see that under my piece with those 3 images is the word unity, and that alone can spark a conversation for the youth, for the children. Well, what does that mean? Unity for what? For all people. Everyone's not going to treat you great, but then you have some people who you don't know who will treat you like family, and at the end of the day, that is what it's all about. The conversation will continue when it comes to the truthfulness of what happened downtown. in Greensboro and what has happened to the people throughout this country, you have to be extremely honest about it. But if we can approach it in a way that says our story is also your story, and it doesn't have to end in negativity. It can end with greatness, whether that child sees it and decides to become a politician to make change, or a teacher, or, you know, someone, a business owner who puts things out there to their youth. You never know. So I think it's parents' jobs to make sure that they explain what they're seeing so that they know as they grow up what it was for that period. My grandmother was down here when everything was segregated. Now she came down here and she saw the artwork and she saw the artists working and the children and the people and the families, and she's telling me stories about her time, and I'm like, well, I have my story to pass down as well. And so it's a continuation of being able to be honest about your experiences and helping, you know, a child know you may experience something, but don't let it alter your mind. Let it be something great. Enjoy this moment. Learn from it. Grow from it. Do something with it. Don't fall into the traps that, you know, are being set up for you. Have your own mind. But this is what I'm going to display to you. Take what you want to from it and grow with it. So I think that's what, you know, is most important in continuing to educate the youth.
I would say actually it's also really important that the adults continue to educate themselves. You know, through this process with the movement. You know, I knew some, but you don't learn a lot in school about Black history. You might learn about Martin Luther King. You know, you learn that there was slavery. You know, you don't really delve deep into it. And I think that it's important for the adults to do their education as well. You know, there's James Baldwin is one of my, I was put on to him and like blew my mind listening to him, and I've like listened to him several times over, and I grew from that. You know, I didn't truly for myself understand white privilege. Like my mom, I'm first generation American. My mom's British, but of course I have white skin. I've never had to worry about getting denied an apartment just because of the color of my skin, or have to question the motives of someone because of the color of my skin, or did I get the job or did I not get the job because of the color of, you know. So I think that it's really important that the adults continue to educate themselves too, to trickle that down to the kids, and have a true understanding like of American history when it comes to people of color, when it comes down to like slavery has been going on for a very long time, a lot longer than people even, like Christopher Columbus time, like, you know, there were slaves coming over, and you know, there's so much to learn, and I mean, I'm in my infancy stage of learning, I'm sure, but I think that is really important that we continue to listen. That's another thing that I've learned is, you know, I'm saying what I can do to better, you know, myself and what adults can do, but I also think it's really important to hear what people of color are saying and just sit back and listen, you know, and then you'll kind of get an idea of what really needs. I can't sit there and tell you or you know, or someone else what Black Lives Matter. Black lives need to do that. People of color need to. You can't do that. You know, like I can't say. I can observe, but I can't say. I can't speak for someone. All I can do is, you know, just continue to try to grow as much as possible and try to, you know, listen as I talk. But, you know, I think that's really important.
Well, we've sadly come to the end of this. We've had a great conversation, and I've learned a lot from each and every one of you. So thank you for allowing us to do this, Gina, Ashley, Jennifer. Thank you.
All right, and then for more information, you can visit us at the greensborohistory.org website, and then scroll over to the Discover and Learn tab for the podcast.
Yes, and thank you, Jennifer Graff, for letting us use your Vintage to Vogue. Please come and check it out, and also Save the Arts for filming for us. Please keep listening to the History Notes podcast. That we have more episodes coming your way.